Hey guys, so we're here with Coach Ashley Langford. Coach, how you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Awesome, awesome. Can't complain. So, when did you realize coaching was something you want to do for the rest of your life?
It took me a little bit, honestly. It didn't happen until I was a graduate assistant at
Mhm.
Auburn University. Before that, I was a player at Tulane, and when I graduated, I just thought I was gonna go get my MBA and go get a job. And my coach was like, Lisa Stockton, who's still the coach there now. She's like, you should think about coaching. I think you'd be a great coach. And I was like, man, get out of here. I don't want to coach. Like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
But I got an opportunity to be a GA at Auburn, and I worked at the women's basketball program there. And I also got my MBA at the same time. And that is really when I figured out, okay, like this is something I want to do. And I kind of had that aha moment when I was working with one of the players, and she couldn't finish, and we worked at it, we worked at it, and then in a game she was able to do it, and she kind of looked over to me and gave me like a thank you. And for me, that was the moment of realizing how I can influence, how I can help, and
Mhm.
help young women. And that was the moment I was like, all right, like I'm supposed to do this. So it kind of just took off from that moment, and I haven't been looking back.
Cool, cool, cool. Nothing better than that feeling. Nothing better, I promise you. So you're from Pennsylvania, Harrisburg, if I remember correctly, right? I went
Yep.
to school out in PA. I went to HBCU out there. Pretty familiar with
What
the landscape. I went to Lincoln.
I was about to say Lincoln. Yeah,
Went to
nice.
Lincoln. Not Cheney, Lincoln, Lincoln.
No, no, I got you.
um, so if you were to use one word to describe a Pennsylvania basketball player, what would it be and why?
Oh wow. Um, I don't know. I think it's changed. I can't even. It's hard, but I think we're tough and smart. I mean, that's two words, but
Mhm.
I think we're pretty good IQs. And then we're just tough. But I think Pennsylvania is different, man. You got a lot of different areas in Pennsylvania people don't realize. You got like central Pennsylvania, it's rural. You got like the city in Philly. Like
Mhm.
you got Pittsburgh. It's a whole nother country to me. Like it's so different. But I think toughness and smartness is. I think everybody would agree across the state.
Mhm. Mhm. So if you were to use one word to describe your coaching style, what would it be and why?
Versatile.
Versatile.
And I use that because I think that you have to coach different players different ways. And you've got to be able to connect and relate to them. And everyone is different. Players are motivated by different things. And you got to be able to figure out how to connect to them. And I think that I take the time to really connect. And when they need me, kind of be that comfort. I can be comfort. When they need to push, I push. When they just need to laugh and have fun, I do that too. So I think it's versatility in terms of how I'm able to coach each of my players, and knowing what time it is to do certain things and certain actions. So the versatility, not just one way. And sometimes people joke around. It's like, man, that sounds like it's bipolar. And it's like, well, like it is a little bit. Like you gotta be different in different circumstances, different experiences, different times, different players. You can't just stay the exact same, because otherwise you're not going to connect and get the best out of them.
Mhm. Mhm. So you mentioned earlier you play your college ball at Tulane. Um, Two-part question. First
Yeah.
part, what made that school appeal to you? You can answer that part first, and I'll answer the second one.
Okay.
I'll throw it
Well,
back.
I was the 17-year-old that knew what she wanted. I did not want to go to school in the north. I was done with the cold. So I know I wanted to go down south. I know I wanted a high academic institution, and I know I wanted the ability to play right away. And Tulane just fit all three of those things that I wanted. I also wanted to be in a city, something that was very different than where I was from. So again, Tulane fit that bill with New Orleans. So just throughout the recruiting process, I mean, the academics were number one, um, but it fit everything else for me too. So it was pretty easy when I finally went on my visit there, and I just was like, "Yep, this is where I'm supposed to be." And if I was picking a school all over again, I would still pick Tulane, and my head coach Lisa Stockton as well.
Mhm. Second part, having been recruited, going through the recruiting process as a former player, now you're a coach and you reflect on things and you're like, you know what? This recruit said this to me and that turned me off. That approach wasn't good. And then you say, you know what? I wasn't really interested in that school, but this person was so well prepared and they had their ducks in order so much that I gave them some time. I really considered them. Looking back at those things, what is one thing you learned not to do and what to do?
From when I was a player or the
Mhm.
coaching perspective?
Now that you're a coach, we get
And
on
now
the
that
phone
I'm a
with
coach.
somebody, we're like,
Yeah,
all right, that's a no-no.
yeah,
We're not doing that.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
No, we're not doing that. It's a good question. So what I try, well, let me start with what I do. Okay. So what I think is important is that you get on the phone and you're really just trying to develop an initial relationship, like just on a person to person, right? And a lot of that too is like, let me talk to your parents because they're young. Like I think that's a respect thing of just talking to the parents first, or at some point very close to after you talk to the player. I think it's a no to ask certain questions that are very intrusive. I mean, it's the same way if you're on the street and you meet a stranger for the first time, like you're not asking them all these personal, intricate questions. Because I know as a player, when I was getting recruited, sometimes you're like, man, that's my business. Like, wait, I just met you. So that's important to me. I think you got to take your time with talking to the recruiting. Also, I think it's important though that you let them know that they're wanted and how you see them and you see the vision for them. I think sometimes, I tell our staff is like, they got to know the plan. They got to know the plan for them here. Because if they're not hearing the plan and how they fit into that, how are they going to envision themselves being at Stony Brook? So if we're not talking about a plan and that's specific to that player, that's a problem for me. That's how we do recruiting here. But I think you just every time you get on the phone with a different player, it's just different. But again, I just don't dive in with personal questions right away, and that takes time. You got to develop that trust in that relationship before you get that, and they got to be comfortable with you.
So I never asked this question before. I was thinking about this one as I'm driving today. So you played at Tulane. You got lots of buckets, all-time leading in assists, great defender. Tell me, because you've had some good days and some bad days. Tell me the team you cooked the most. Like I sliced and diced them up that day. And
Yeah,
tell me the player that you're like, whenever I played this one girl, I couldn't find a way to stop her. Every time we played her,
yeah.
we just couldn't stop this girl in the post. Like, so give me an example. This is your humble brag.
Yeah, right. Put me on the spot. So East Carolina, I I was cooking that game. I was cooking East Carolina.
That was a 30 ball, right?
Yeah. I was just in a zone. Everything, it didn't matter what I did, it just went in that game. Um, so that was a good day for me. And then Rice, man, Rice always had our number, and we had a really good. The year we won a championship, a regular season championship, in the tournament they beat us, and it was just like, and I can't remember her last name, but her first name was Katie, and she was a point guard, and I was a sophomore at the time, she was a senior, and I just remember being like, man, she's good, and this team is good. Like they just, it's those teams that just have your number. It don't matter. They're not even better than you necessarily, but like for whatever reason, the matchups just don't work out, and that was them. So Rice, they beat us in the conference tournament and upset us.
I can dig it. I can dig it, coach. So you mentioned your first coaching job, grad assistant, Auburn. An opportunity to really get your hands dirty. I think sometimes when you're having one of those entry-level jobs, I think sometimes people don't appreciate the amount of work those people do. But like I even tell people all the time, the buses don't just show up. The food just doesn't show up out of nowhere. Like, all those type of things, they matter. Someone makes those things happen, whether it's adobo, the videos just don't shoot themselves, nowadays. Like you got to put in work. So tell me about that time. It's pretty nice starting point, Power Five.
Yep.
So tell me about that time and what you learned during that time there.
Man, you're right. I mean, I learned everything. I was a sponge, and Nell Fortner was the head coach at the time. And anyone who knows now, she's awesome. She has great energy. She's charismatic. She's a winner. And she really, gave me a lot of responsibility. I was able to do a lot of things. I mean, all the way to like babysitting her dogs, and that's if anyone knows her. Everybody knows that's important. So I built that trust. I was doing video stuff. I was doing recruiting stuff. I was doing managers. I was doing practice players. I was able to do so much and get my hands in it, so many things, and that's helped me move forward. It's also I learned is like that's what you want. You want to be able to go in your coach's office and learn. How can I help you? What can I do? What can I do to make your job easier? And then you don't realize all the knowledge that you get from them when you're just sitting in their office doing work for them. They start talking to you, or you're learning how they do certain things. I remember sitting in Mark Simon's office, and I learned he was watching film. He can watch the offense and defense at the same time, and this is a long time ago. So I remember aspiring to be like, man, I hope I can do that one day. Oh, I'm sitting here watching film and I can scout both at the same time. So it's like little things like that that you pick up that he's not going to volunteer that, but you're in his office, you're gaining that relationship that you have. So I just learned really how to go from player to the bottom. And it was an adjustment, and it is an adjustment, but for me, it's like that's what I wanted. I needed that. I needed that base. I needed that foundation of learning how to do every single thing. And that's helped me along the way. Because my first job after Auburn, I was a third assistant, and I was the Dobo and an assistant. But I knew how to do that because I was helping the Dobo when I was at Auburn. So I had experience already with that. So I think you just got to learn as much as you can when you're at the bottom, because that's only going to help you if you're trying to aspire to go to the top. And it also gives you an appreciation and empathy when you do become a top assistant or a head coach or whatever. You continue to move up. You know how it feels to be the GA. You know that the work that goes behind the scenes, and you can appreciate that, and you can show that gratitude to those positions. Where sometimes people that have never been there, they can't relate to it. They don't know, right? So I think that I use that to my advantage right now as a head coach of like, we've got a GA who's a video coordinator. I know it's hard, and you got to go to school, and you got to do this. Like, I understand it. So, but if I didn't go through it, I wouldn't feel this. I wouldn't be able to connect to it the same. So all of that, I've learned all of that.
Mhm. First job, I could be wrong. Bucknell, first assistant
Yeah, that
job.
was my first assistant. Yeah.
Okay. So Patriot League, if I remember correctly. We played them this year. They're tough. That's a really, really, really good conference. For those that
Yeah.
don't know, high academic conference. Kind of similar to the Ivy, but the Ivy League is like the Ivy is like on steroids. But Patriot League is like a really, really good conference. Tell me about.
Ivy with scholarships.
There we go. There we go. Tell me about that time, Coach.
Again, it was good for me because, like I said, I was an assistant coach. I was finally getting, that title, that responsibility. But I also had to do equipment. I also had to do our team travel, our meals, and that's some we didn't have a Dobo, so I was kind of doing Dobo and assistant responsibilities and duties. And again, at the time, it's like you just work. I just worked hard. Like, I didn't look at it like, oh, this is a lot. It's like I'm grateful to have the opportunity to be here and have a full-time job. So it was good. It was a good experience. It was adversity. In my first job, our head coach got let go in the middle of the season. So we had to scramble like 2 or 3 games in the conference. We had to put everything. Our assistant coach, he bumped up to interim head coach, and kind of put in a new system and everything like that. So that was another learning lesson of coaching and how things can change like this, and how to be resilient, how to bounce back. But it was nice to get that spot. It was also nice to still be in Pennsylvania. I was only like an hour away from home. So yeah, it was good. In the Patriot League, it's tough. And I learned how to recruit to an academic school, and learning about the academic index, and certain areas that we should be targeting as far as academic schools and that kind of thing. So having that academic piece helped me, because I hadn't had that, right? At Auburn, we didn't have those academic stipulations. It's just a little bit different in the Patriot League. So again, that set my foundation to now be able to move on and move forward and understand how to recruit high academic players, and all that it takes.
Mhm. So then you move on to Denver. Very good program, beautiful. I actually talked to head coach here now, Dosha Woods,
Yeah,
Tulane
yeah.
person, great person. Let me ask you, why Denver? What made it make sense? And two-part question, why Denver? And then the best lesson you learned via observation of the coach while you're there.
Okay. So it was easy. My reason to go to Denver was Carrie Cremines. I worked with her at Auburn. She was an assistant coach at Auburn. Then she got the head job at Denver. She asked me to come with her. I already had the relationship. It was a no-brainer to me. So went out west, which was the furthest west I've ever lived. But again, I'm glad I went there. Denver's an awesome city. Again, it's a high academic school. So it fit for me. What I learned there was, at Auburn, we had athletic players, we had a certain way to play, and Kerry wanted to do that at Denver. We were originally in the Sun Belt, then our conference changed to the Summit League. And so our recruiting, we wanted to recruit athletic, we wanted to kind of do what had done at Auburn before, but we're not at Auburn. We're at Denver. And what I learned there is you really like you have an idea of how you want to play and the players that you want, but that doesn't mean you're always going to get them. And you kind of have to adapt and adjust, especially in your year 1 or 2, and figure out how you're just going to win in that league and be successful. And that was what I really learned, being out there. I think, with our recruiting, we didn't get maybe the players that we wanted to fit to win right then, or change maybe our system a little bit. But we had a good time. It was good people. I wish we had one more games, but you live and you learn. That's part of it.
Next up, Navy, different animal as well. You're recruiting players that it's a different stipulation in regards to what comes. It's not just basketball. There's for lack of better terms, there's a requirement or obligation or service opportunity that goes along with it, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
So tell me about that time, the players you were looking into, the conversations you had during recruitment, and how you guys were able to, be successful. Considering it's not just, we're gonna roll the balls out and play, and they just looking at us that sells itself. You selling more for the pros and the cons, for lack of better terms.
Yep.
So just tell me about
that. First of all, the women at the Naval Academy are amazing. I mean, those are some of the most, I don't know, unique, special women that I've ever come in contact with. Like, they're gonna go change the world. So that was number one. It was great just being around those type of people, those type of women. And they're super bright, super tough. But yeah, it's a whole nother animal. Like you said, you got a 5-year service commitment after you graduate, but you're set for life. And that's essentially what you're selling, to recruits is, hey, you get to come here, the academics are amazing. All right. And you basically are going to have job security for 5 years. Then if you want to get out, you can get out and go on and do whatever else you want to do, or you can continue to serve this country. So it's a pride for the country. Also, the degree is, I mean, it's amazing. So that's what you're selling. It's just a matter of finding who values that. And there's some recruits out here who they value the military. They want that. They want a service academy. They're built with their family, or that's just what they want. And then there's some players who don't necessarily realize that they want that, and that's the ones that you can kind of turn a little bit of like, hey, look, you got an opportunity to play basketball here. You'll go to school for free. We'll take care of you. You have a job. You have job security. Because some don't know what they want to do and don't have those resources. They don't know if they're gonna make it. So that's a way for them to make it. As long as they can academically, get in and everything like that. So it's but it's challenging because it's a niche. You have to find that recruit that values that, or you have to find the ones that you think could value that. Because it's not for everybody. And you get told no a lot, but I feel like, you get told no more than you get told yes anywhere. So again, I looked at it as a challenge. It's like, if I can recruit young women to the Naval Academy, I can recruit anywhere. So I didn't really look at it too much of a negative. I just looked at it as a challenge of I got to figure out how to do it. I'm gonna get it done. I just got to figure it out.
Yeah, it's free to ask. It's definitely free to ask.
Yeah.
So, a little pivot real quick. From what I know, you're a part of the BDS family with Brian.
Yeah. Yeah.
Most people don't know that coaches, assistant coaches, head coaches have agents, correct? Tell me about why you decided to be a part of that family. Why was that the right fit? And, you know, some of the things that Brian helps you navigate throughout your career.
So I'll tell you, when I first like was thinking about becoming a head coach, I was like, do I need an agent? Like, I don't know. I was doing him and on. And, you know, for me, I had a mutual colleague and she used him as her agent. And she's like, man, you need to get with Brian. You need to get with Brian. She knew I wanted to become a head coach at some point. And I was still just like, I don't know. So I went to his seminar, head coach training center. And I thought that that was really good. And I met him and I really trusted my colleague. And so that is kind of how the relationship developed. But I know myself. And I think that's important. I knew that I'm not a big networker. Like I'm the person that's gonna work really hard and I'm gonna like be where I'm at and do the best job I can do there. But going around and working a room and doing all that, like that is tough for me. Like I'm an introvert. People don't know that about me, but I'm like extremely introverted. Or what do they call that? Like introverted but selectively extroverted or something like that. That's like probably me. So that's not my strength. And so for me, it's like, all right, well, let me get someone else to advocate for me who's in those circles that I'm not in. Right. So he's dealing with administrators. He's able to pass along my name. He's able to, that's his job. So I'm not good at that. And I don't have those connections, but he does. So that's how we kind of got going. We started having conversations. We decided to work together. And I mean, he's done an amazing job. I didn't even work for him for a year and I've got a head job. So he helped navigate all my interviews. Even before I had the interview opportunities, I'm like, hey, am I attractive for this? What do I need to get to my goal? And he's the one telling me, hey, this is what you need to do. You need to start working on your portfolio. You need to do this. You need to do that. Hey, you're going to this. You need to sit down with this person, reach out to this person. But also not just him like framing and helping me with my direction, also me just bouncing things off of him because he was a former administrator. So it's easy to talk to him and I can keep it real with him because we're on the same team, and I'll be like, what do you think about this? He'll be like, nah, that's not it. I don't think that's going to be good for you. Because he also knows these schools, these administrators on a different level than I do because he's known them for years. He has that relationship and he knows me too. So he's like, I'm going to tell you this, Ash, this is what's going to be. I'm not sure that's going to work for you, but I think you should still talk to him, right? Like he does a good job buffering, connecting. I'm really big into quality relationships, and that's why I'm not as good as networking with everybody because I'd rather have 5 really deep quality relationships. And I know he has a lot of clients, but I never feel like he doesn't have time for me. He hits me up after every game. I mean, anytime anything is going on, he's checking on us. Like the level of detail that he shows and care that he shows, is why I'm a part of the family. If I just felt like I was another client, I would have been out a long time ago. I would have just been like, all right, cool. But he's invested in us. He's invested in me. And he makes me feel comfortable. I don't have to worry about any of the stuff with my job. Like as far as contracts, administration, all I got to do is focus on my team, who I am and getting us right. And I know Brian's going to take care of everything else.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So you did time at ODU, then you leaped over to James Madison. I talked to Coach Reagan. He spoke very highly of you as well.
Yeah.
Tell me about that time there. Why was that the appropriate place for you to launch your coaching career to the next level? Because, that school, when I was talking to him for the interview, that y'all pushing them out. You got you, him, then you had Bridget that's at Northeastern. So y'all were just that country, Kenny Brooks, y'all just pushing them out there, pushing them out. So tell me about that. Tell me about your time there.
Yeah, I thought it was a good it was a good move for me personally. I didn't know Sean. I knew him in passing, but we had a mutual colleague that kind of connected us. and we really just fit. I mean, I think that that's why, I thrive so much there, is because of our relationship, on and off the court, just as people. I think we really connected, and that is why I think I just grew so much during those 4 years. Of course I wanted to go there because it's a winning program. The culture there was already established. Of course, we talked about Kenny Brooks. I mean, at that point in my career, I was like, I want to go somewhere and win. I want to see what it's like to win. What is the formula? Like, that's what I want to be around. I want to be around success. So that's what it was. At JMU, the expectation was up here. It was to win. It was to go to NCAA tournament. It was to produce WNBA draft picks. Like, that is what I wanted. And winning is, I love winning. Everyone loves winning, but it's one thing to go somewhere, and that's the expectation. And what does that look like? And how do you keep doing it year after year after year? So my first year, I was a sponge. I was in Coach O's office all the time. What can I do? How do we do this? Picking his brain. I know sometimes he was like, man, Lang, get out of here. He used to call me Lang. Get out of here, man. Stop asking me so many questions. But it was good. Like, I gained a lot of trust from him, gave me a lot more responsibilities. I touched every piece again of the program by the time I got out of there. And again, I'm really big on fit. And to me, that was my fit. That was my like ultimate fit. I wasn't gonna leave unless I had a good opportunity that it also fit for me. I wasn't just gonna leave to go to become any head coach. Like, that wasn't my thing. I was like, I want to be somewhere. I want to be happy. I was happy at JMU. We were winning. It was a good situation, personally and professionally. So I just wanted to continue to grow, and he allowed me to do that. But yeah, I just learned a lot about the culture, and I don't think people realize how important it is to have the culture, to have like the positivity, how to establish it. And I think that's what I learned the most there. It wasn't necessarily X and O's, it wasn't that kind of stuff. It was really the culture and how to cultivate that, how to keep it, and how that keeps going year after year after year. And you essentially have a powerhouse.
Okay. Pivot just a little bit. So tell me one red flag that would scare you off when you're recruiting a player via phone conversation or live. Like, the conversation starts, it goes left, and you like X off the list. Or, so
Yeah.
one thing.
Well, one of my big thing is, even before we get on the phone, if you don't return my phone calls or you don't return a text, that right there, I'm already like red flag. That you can't even respond or get back to me, call me back, that kind of thing. That right there is a red flag. It's a pet peeve of mine. But if we're on the phone and you're very distracted, you're so concerned about everything in your background that you can't give me attention and respect on the phone, that's a no-no. That means I'm not important, or you're just very immature, that you don't even understand how to prioritize, whatever it may be. But I think you got to have respect when you're on the phone, especially when you're talking to a coach that potentially wants you to come play for them or have a chance to be on the team. So those to me are two biggest things. I'm big on communication and respect. And I look at it like this: if you're doing that during recruiting, you're going to do that when you come here too.
Everyone focuses on the good, but like I say, if there's a heaven, there's a hell. You got to see both. There are some tough days that we all go through as coaches, that test your resolve and your love for the game. Tell me one moment that really pushed you to the brink. I'm not happy with my pay. I'm not happy with my position. I'm not happy at this school. I'm not happy with players. We all have that moment. It's like, it can go left. It's gonna go left right now. Like, this is it. This is my moment. So just tell me about one of those moments, if you're willing to share, and what kept you from going off the deep end and just going through and keep pushing.
Yeah. I'm not gonna say where, of course, but I think my struggles have come when there's a disconnect with my head coach when I was an assistant, and just not having the relationship and not being able to communicate the way that I like to communicate. And so you get to a point where you're like, am I even valued? Am I valued here? And you go to work and you want to enjoy it. You want to be able to walk into your head coach's office and be like, "What's up? How was you? Like, what's going on?" You want to be able to have those interactions. And I struggled when I wasn't able to have those, and it was maybe though their communication style didn't match mine, and that's a nice way to say it. But yeah, when you don't feel like you're respected or valued, yeah, then you start looking at things like your paycheck. And you start looking at things like, looking over here at this place. But what I always did was, look, I'm gonna do the best I can. I can't control her. I can't control him. I can't control them. I can only control myself. And I'm gonna use this to try to work on that. I'm gonna try to communicate with them, or I'm just gonna keep doing my thing. I'm gonna do my job. You're not gonna I'm gonna leave. If I leave here, you're not gonna say I didn't do my job. You're not gonna say I didn't do what I was supposed to do, that I didn't care about the players, that I didn't do everything I could for this program. And that's really what I stood on, even amongst the adversity. Now, as a head coach, it's a little different because it's all yours, right? And I think sometimes I struggle here recently. It's just like you're in a game and your team isn't they're just not reaching the potential that you know that they can. And you're just like, I wish I could do it for them, but you can't. You can't do it for them, and it ebbs and flows. And I want everything right now, and I've had to learn that you got to be patient. And that's probably one of my biggest struggles right now as a head coach is being patient, understanding that it ebbs and flows, and that at the end of the day, like our players are happy, winning games, and that's what matters.
Awesome, awesome. So you become the head coach at Stony Brook. Like you said, I think you're a well thought out process type of person that wanted to make your next move your best move. Why Stony Brook?
I always said when I become a head coach, I wanted to be somewhere that I would also consider attending when I was coming out of high school. And so, like we talked about, I valued high academics. Stony Brook is high academics. That's the type of players I want to coach. That's where I wanted to be. So that already aligned. I talked about when I went down to New Orleans, I wanted to be near a city. I'm near New York City right now. So the location was good. All right. Then I talked about being able to play and win championships at Tulane. We can do that here. So to me, it was the right fit. It made sense. High academics, I love the location, and we can win here. And they've won before me, right? I looked at who was returning, and I'm looking at the roster and the way I want to play. And I'm like, they already have players that fit kind of how I want to play. This makes sense. I wanted to go somewhere that I could be successful. After being at JMU for the last 4 years, I didn't want to go somewhere necessarily, not to say that I wouldn't rebuild, but it's nice to just come in and just keep going and keep being able to be successful right away. Those are the main reasons. And then when I got on the phone with our AD, Sean Hilburn, we connected right away. I loved his energy. I got off the Zoom feeling like, I hope they call me back. I hope I get on campus because this seems like it fits. And I'm big on vibes and how it feels. And it felt right.
So I think I'll ask these questions for a lot of people that want to be a head coach, a couple of these right now. So, I think that there are, because before I started coaching, I used to work in the magazine world. I worked at Slam. So,
Okay.
I did all that WNBA stuff and women's basketball type of stuff. And I pivoted because I love coaching.
Yeah.
So the way I handle an interview there is different than how I handle an interview here. So, the first time you walk into an interview, coaching wise, things like that, I don't think a lot of people, you mentioned it lightly before, you want to be a head coach, where your portfolio at? What's your non-negotiables? What's the culture? What's going to be your thing? What's going to be your, for lack of better terms, your special move? What's your special move?
Mm-hmm.
So tell me one thing, if I were to step into an interview right now to be a head coach somewhere, you say, Christian, before you enter that room, you got to have this. You got to be able to answer this question exactly, or you got to have this thing with you that's going to give you an edge.
Yeah. So you don't even necessarily, you need to have a portfolio. Like of course, the actual physical portfolio, but they don't even really look at that while you're there at all. But you need it just in case somebody wants it. I think you got to be ready to answer who you are as a coach, what your philosophy is from your standpoint of your culture, and that's in the classroom, your team, on the court. Like that's a huge question. And that's like they're absolutely gonna ask you that. What's your philosophy? What do you believe in academically? What do you believe in on the court? Like you just said, your non-negotiables. They ask you questions like that, of course. But for me, I think the biggest thing that I learned was like you got to go in that interview showing them how you're going to lead. They got to see that you're the head coach that's going to lead their program. Like they have to envision that. They have to, at the end of the interview, they have to feel like, yep, she can do it. So the way you talk, the way you present things, the way you, it doesn't even matter exactly what it is, whatever your philosophy is, you got to present that thing like you're talking to your team, like you're talking to donors, like you're talking to the board of directors. Like that's the confidence that you have to exude. It's not time to be humble. It's time to show them like you're the leader and you're the one for the job. Because if you go in there being humble, and I had to learn this, if you're like humble, you don't, do the brags on yourself a little bit, you're not showing your charisma, then they're not going to envision that. They're not going to see you as the face of their program. And that's what you have to do. So you're going to have your answers. You're going to write it down. You're going to have your philosophy, but you got to be able to deliver that and convey that in a way where they're like, she's it. That's head coach material right there. I can see her leading our women through success in the classroom, on the court, in the community. Like that's what has to come across when you're actually doing these interviews. Not necessarily exactly what you're saying now. It needs to make sense now. All right. But like you got to have your personality. You got to put it on. You got to show them. And I had to learn that.
I have a saying that Rome wasn't built in a day, but it was built. So tell me, every day, I think as a coach, you have this one thing that you want to do. I'm a defensive guy. I love defensive drills. I just love them. I love them. That's just me. I love zigzags. I love charge drills. I love all that deflection drills. That's me. That's my height. That's how I do. Yeah. I love the goon one. But tell me something that you do every day, or if you could do it every day, you would do every day. That's setting a foundation and a tone of your team. Like, every day y'all coming, y'all know what we doing. First play of the game, we doing this. You know what it is. Don't ask. So what's your thing?
I mean, every day in practice, we do shell drill pretty much. Mm-hmm. So that's a defensive shell drill that they already know. And it's hard and I'm tough with it, but that is our foundation. I mean, our identity is we defend, we rebound, and we run. So we have to do the shell every day. And they don't, there's different ways that I try to incentivize them and motivate them, whether it's perfect stops or certain points or whatever it may be. But that's the core of our defense. And, I'm not a big one on doing a whole bunch of pressing and all that kind of stuff, depending on, if we have the personnel for it, I'll do it, but that's not me to the core. Me to the core is we're going to defend you in the half court and be right in front of you and tell you, try to score on us. Like that's really my mindset. So we have to do shell drill every day to have that mindset, to be tough, for me to be like, nope, that's not a stop, for me to put the rebounding bubble up there and make sure we're rebounding and boxing out. But it's toughness. It's doing a drill you don't really want to do. They don't really want to do it day in and day out. They don't. So it works on a lot of different things, not just the basketball, but the mental aspect of it too. But yeah, we do shell every day. Now me, like what really brings me joy though, is offense and scoring. I know we need defense, so I'm all about that. I preach that all the time, and that's really what gets it done, because the offensive end, you're not always going to make shots. So I know the value of it, but I really like designing a play and seeing it work. That makes me happy. I'm not gonna lie. Or knowing that, hey, this team is defending it like this, so we're gonna tweak it like this, and then when we get it in the game, I'm excited. So that's what gets me like celebrating. But shell drill is a necessity. We have to do that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Let me read this because you said it. I don't want to mess it up.
Yeah.
We're going to pick the pace up. it starts on the defensive end, and they're already used to that. They're already used to getting in the stance and dictating the game with their defense. I'm glad that's already ingrained in them. But then on the offensive end, I want more movement. I want the pace to pick up. I want the players to make plays. I want it to be more free and less sets. Okay. So I think everybody, associates less sets with a lack of structure. I think that the common person, which isn't the case, explain to me how you set them free, yet still have control of the game,
Yeah. So, I mean, we still have, we want to run in transition, right? And so we have the athletes, we have the personnel to be able to do that. So for me, what I came in and what we did was we just taught them spacing. So we taught them where they need to be on the court. We taught them certain, if somebody drives baseline, what needs to happen? We need a drift, we need to follow. Well, if we go middle, what needs to happen? If the ball goes inside and the post players dribble middle, what are they doing? If they go baseline. So instead of teaching exacts, we're teaching spacing and movement. So now it allows them the autonomy to make those decisions. So now they can decide if they want to go baseline, if they want to go middle. They can decide what they want to do. So we know how to react off of each other based on what that person decides. So that allows for more freedom, but it's still structure, but it's freedom within the structure. Now, when our spacing is incorrect, then I'm on them about that because we're not as successful if our spacing is incorrect. So we talked a lot about that for our primary transition, that kind of stuff, and a little bit of our secondary. And then when we get in the half court, we still have like a 4-out, 1-in motion, movement, free flowing. And again, it's the same ideas of the ball goes this way, where should you be? Hey, you pass it to the corner, maybe you cut through. So we've got some of those rules. And when I say rules, it's not like hard rules, but hey, good things happen when you do this action. Good things happen when you do this action. But it gives them a chance to, it's not A to B to B to C, C to D. It's, hey, A could go to C and then C could go to E. What happens then? And it's less scoutable, and they're able to just play, and they play off of each other. And they also can use their one-on-one individual skill sets. Whereas if you're just running sets the whole time, they're not able to use their skills. They're not able to, what they worked on in their individual workouts, they're not even able to show because they don't have the freedom to do it. So that allows them to do that kind of stuff. So that's what we do. Now, we also do have quick hitters because there's time for that too. You need that. And, we have a lot of quick hitters, but we also, it always ends kind of in that free flowing, go get a bucket. I tell them all the time, is like, players make plays. When you're going in the tournament, conference tournament, or NCAA tournament, it don't come down to sets, man. Players got to make plays. Like, that's what it comes down to. I can draw up the best play in the world, but it'll probably break down. Most of basketball on the offensive end are breakdowns. That's just what it is. The play breaks down at some point. You got to be able to have players that feel empowered, that have the confidence to go make plays in the right spacing. And that's what we're trying to do here. And I think our players have bought into that, and they like that, and they enjoy that. And that's why we are scoring more points. We're playing faster. People that didn't hardly play last year are shining right now. Or maybe the people that did play are shining even more because of that freedom. And I think a lot of it too is just the confidence, man. Like when you have confident players, the sky is the limit. And that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to get them to the point where they don't need you in the game. Like, you can just sit down over there and just chill out for a little bit. That's what I'm trying to get them to do. So that's what I mean by the freedom, but there is still structure. There's definitely still opportunities to learn, like, hey, that's not a good pass there. You should look for this. You should look for that. Because when you give them more freedom, there's opportunities for more turnovers because it's not as joystick, it's not as synced, right? So, but you got to coach them through that, coach them through the decision making, and that's the beauty when you see them making the better decisions and growing and getting better with it. That's the fun part for me.
Yeah, I love it, Coach. I love it. So a couple more questions. You can only be one. Are you, you're a great X's and O's guy. You're phenomenal. You draw up the plays. You always get open. down by one, the ball's on the sideline, somebody getting loose, you're that guy. You're that guy. But pregame speech, halftime speech, during practice, you kind of just like you're not like that guy that like makes you move. You're not super bland, but you're not super exciting. You're just you kind of do your job, clock in, clock out type of guy. Which is cool. Which is cool.
Strength and weaknesses.
Okay. Or you Coach Carter. You Al Pacino on any given Sunday. You that guy. You if I tell you to run through this wall, you're gonna run through the wall. And they're gonna believe it. They're gonna believe they run through that wall, they're going right through to the other side. You're that guy. They welling up at halftime because you got them all fired up. But down by one, balls on the sideline. You're looking at the guys in the stands, the popcorn guy. You're not that guy. You're not that guy at all. So who do you want to be? Only choose one.
Between those two, right?
Between those two.
Yeah. I got to go with Coach Carter. I got to go with the motivator, the one that can influence, because that's what it is. You got to connect to the players, and they got to believe, and they got to believe in you. And when they believe in you and you're able to get them to believe in themselves higher than they thought they could ever go, beautiful things happen. I can always hire an X and O person, and they can draw up the play in the huddle, or they can teach it to me and I can draw it up because I can memorize. All right. But your players, they gotta believe in me. And I gotta get them, motivate them charismatically, however you want to put it, to put that passion in them, to get them to go play hard and all that. That's people don't understand, like, that emotional intelligence is just as important and arguably more important than X's and O's, because it's not about plays, man. It's not about plays. It's not about that.
Yeah. Ball is ball. Ball is ball. What can we expect for this team? Not wins and losses, but if I'm a fan and I go to a Stony Brook game and I'm walking to my car after the game's done, what do you expect that I will have saw? How am I going to feel? Like, Stony Brook is this. Stony Brook played like this. So tell me.
We play hard. Every possession we play hard. And we're fun to watch. We celebrate. Our bench is up and at it all the time. We bang threes. We're doing this. We're having fun. We run the ball. Like, we make highlight plays. Like, we're fun to watch on the offensive end for sure. And we play just really hard. And our players look happy. So many times fans come up to me after the game and be like, they look like they're enjoying themselves. And to me, that's what I look at success, is that our players are out there playing a game that they love, and it looks like they love it and that they're enjoying it.
All right. Anything I missed you want to share? This is when you can share whatever you want. You'd be like, Chris, he didn't talk about that. I really wanted to talk about that. And trust me, I know I asked about 1 million questions. So
no, you're good.
I covered a lot of it, but this is when you could tell me about whatever. You want to tell me about your dog. This is when you tell me you like to play guitar, when you're at home on your off days, anything.
Right.
What is a piece of advice you want to give a young coach?
I'm gonna take the time to talk about, our inability to play in our conference tournament. It's really disappointing that the America East is, ruled us ineligible, and I understand the bylaws, and I get the decision, and all that. It's just disappointing for our women who now have had 2 opportunities to go to the NCAA taken away from them. And we're a 22-3 squad right now that is playing well and was on a verge of, going to the tournament and going to the NCAA tournament. So if there's any, chance that these presidents could revert or change their decision, that would be, greatly appreciated, just because it's supposed to be about the well-being of these women and the student athletes. And taking this away from them, they had nothing to do with this decision of changing conferences, and neither did I. None of us did. And it's a shame that they're not getting this opportunity. And they only have 4 or 5 years to play college basketball, and they've worked really hard to put ourselves in a position to play in an NCAA tournament, and to just have that gone at a snap just because of administration. It's just hard to swallow. It's really hard for our team. So I know that the Horizon League they just changed their decision, and I just hope that the America East and these presidents have some grace and, we're able to reinstate us for the conference tournament, because I know that our players, they deserve it. They do. Bottom line, they deserve it, and it would reaffirm that we are all concerned about student athletes' well-being, and that's what we're really concerned about if they, reinstate us.
Yeah, disappointing, truly, truly disappointing to the kids, Well, Coach, I'd like to thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And I know that whoever listens to this will get something positive from this. You're doing a great job there. And, I'll see you soon.
Appreciate it, Chris. Good luck the rest of the way.